Hi everybody, this is Mark Lowry, and this is the 100th Mark Lowry Show.
Welcome to the Mark Lowry Show. Now, here's Mark.
This past Monday and Tuesday, Tony Campolo was in town, and we did Saturdays with Mark and Tony, and they turned out great. Make sure you tune in. I believe this coming Saturday will be the first. We may have one more in the can before we get to the new shows with the new backdrop, and Tony and me just sitting there chit-chatting and talking about life.
Well, how old were you when you started losing your hair? Why did God do that?
He's mean.
And philosophy.
Everybody out there that's watching this show, everybody
You
watching
got too much. Yeah, blah, blah, blah.
Theology.
And the truth is that when I lecture, I don't have to use a pointer to the backboard. I just and people know exactly what I'm pointing to.
Whatever else we could think of.
We saw
Do you
it.
have any cufflinks?
No, I don't.
And make sure they're, I just had a, look at that, hair. Make sure that there are things you want to know about. You know, like I was playing the show for a friend of mine, and she said, that's great information if you want to argue, but I want to know how to get through the week. So, we're going to try to tell you how to get through the week, too.
Hey Mark, this is Joshua Kidd from Texas, and I got a question for you. At what age did you realize you were funny?
Well, Joshua, I think the earliest I remember is when I was about 4. My brother, when he was real young, was a model. He would go on modeling calls, and shoot photos for stores in Houston that sold clothes, and he'd model. And I'd go, I was 4, he's probably 6, and I would tag along. And I remember at some point being around all these kids that were models, and I made them laugh. And, pretty people age, but you can always make people laugh. When we were doing a Saturdays with Mark and Tony listed his favorite verse, Philippians 3. Of course, I jokingly listed mine as 1 Chronicles 26:18 at Parbar Westward 4 at the Causeway and 2 at Parbar. After he left, I looked up Philippians 3 in the Message, and I love this. The real believers are the ones the Spirit of God leads to work away at this ministry, filling the air with Christ's praise as we do it. We couldn't carry this off by our own efforts, and we know it, even though we can list what many might think are impressive credentials. You know my pedigree. A legitimate birth, circumcised on the 8th day, an Israelite from the elite tribe of Benjamin, a strict and devout adherent to God's law, a fiery defender of the purity of my religion, even to the point of persecuting the church, a meticulous observer of everything set down in God's law book. The very credentials these people are waving around as something special, I'm tearing up and throwing out with the trash, along with everything else I used to take credit for. And why? Because of Christ. Yes, all the things I once thought were so important are gone from my life. Compared to the high privilege of knowing Christ Jesus as my master firsthand, everything I once thought I had going for me is insignificant. Dog dung. I've dumped it all in the trash so that I could embrace Christ and be embraced by Him. I didn't want some petty, inferior brand of righteousness that comes from keeping a list of rules when I could get the robust kind that comes from trusting Christ, God's righteousness.
The Mark Lowry Show is a presentation of marklowry.com.